Oh, yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, came up from the struggle, now we stacking chips. Black Wall Street, we rebuilding from the pits. Politics and business, we beyond rich. Doni Glover Show, watch us shift the switch. Doni Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Spotlight on the hustle where the real ones come. Every episode, dropping knowledge, dropping bombs. Doni Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Talking black excellence, ain't no exclusivity. History is making, reclaiming our divinity. Break by break, rebuilding our community. Doni Glover Show, celebrate unity. Doni Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Spotlight on the hustle where the real ones come. Every episode, dropping knowledge, dropping bombs. Doni Glover Show by BMOnews.com. From the boardroom to the streets, we making waves. Business minds running, new paths paved. Politicians listen, they know we the brave. Black Wall Street dreams rising from the grave. Doni Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Spotlight on the hustle where the
we have some stars in the building.
Doni Glover Show by BMOnews.com. Oh yo, oh yo, oh yo, yo.
We'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Special thank you to our executive producer of Be More News in Niagara, Mr. Emmanuel Price. We're up here on, this is the New York side, and that's the Canadian side, and we will be there for the New Year's dropping of the ball or somewhere around here. Very beautiful Niagara Falls, some of the best water in the world. So make sure you get out, get your passport, and do some traveling. And keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Welcome to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Here on the Bank of Mississippi with our very dear friend Corey Mathis. A beautiful town, New Orleans. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com. We're going to give you an update. 10 years since Katrina. The news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
Wall Street, we rebuilding from the pits. Politics and business, we beyond rich.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Got Redtail Hawk with us. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Great day, Mr. Don. How are you today?
All is well. All is well. Hello, Stella. How was your week?
We are wrapping up our youth program, and so a lot of paperwork, closing stuff up, making sure we recognize the children, so raising money for the end of the year program. You know, normal stuff. How about yourself?
I started school, but you gave me an assignment today, and that was to look at the history of North America. And the first thing that came up was this, the Ice Age. And this was, I think, 20,000 years ago. But the last Ice Age that I understand ended about 13,000 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, but we can talk about humans being in Americas way before the Ice Age. And we could talk about, you know, what was happening here prior to that, what happened during the Ice Age, and what happened after the Ice Age. And things that we don't normally talk about as a part of American history, particularly as a part of so-called Black American history. And so, yeah, let's talk about it. Where do we begin?
Well, that's a great question. I have an answer for you.
Okay.
And I've shared this picture before. And according to my research, she is the oldest bones found in the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's debatable because there's another person found out on the coast of California. It's an island out there, just off the coast of California, and those bones dated back 13,000 years old. But this is Luzia, Luzia.
Yeah,
And,
but so we could talk about that. We could start off by talking about that, and then like in some of your previous episodes, they talk about the phenotype. Again, she was a number. It was a number of bones. She was one of the skeleton remains that was found in the underwater cave. And so there are more artifacts. There are more individuals identified. She's just a popular one. With that being stated, they also state that these bones reflect a Southern Asian versus a Northern Asian phenotype or characteristics. And, as we talked about before, the difference between the Northern Asian and the Southern Asian is the difference between so-called white and black, or Negroid versus Caucasian features. And so, even with this particular find from 13,000 or 11,000 years ago, they acknowledged that this person was of a Negroid stock.
I gotta show you this because we got a short time with you, and so I want to make sure I maximize it. So this is the first picture I found of Luzia, and this was some years ago. And look at that forehead. That looks like the Brazilian.
You know what?
Okay.
Have you heard of
just hold that thought. Let me show you one thing. This is the most recent picture shared of Luzia, and it's mind-blowing. Just in a short, let me see if I can get it. Is that it? This is what they say she looks like. They say this is now the new picture of what we initially saw. Totally different forehead. Them Brazilian girls got that forehead of that lady. This ain't what I saw on there. It's a whole different, and you can't. So they changed the face, but they also changed the shape of the forehead. Look at it. It's a totally different forehead.
I see. The totally separate head, generally speaking. And unfortunately,
and that's what happened when
we
scientists
are living in.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just looking at the politics.
Go
the politics played by scientists, academicians, and the institutions that employ them.
Yes.
Let me give you this.
Yes.
Do you know the best archaeology schools in the United States? They are listed as Harvard, Cal Berkeley, Stanford, UCLA. I just wondered, and I've been pondering this, of the over 100 HBCUs.
Well, actually, that question will actually take me to the beginning of my conversation on this topic. Recognizing it. What's that?
Come on with it.
Okay, so recognizing that this topic has been pretty. You've been getting some attention on over the last few weeks, and everybody has information that is useful and is valuable information. People have perspectives, but facts are facts. And when you talk about the facts, there is no dispute, and the fact is that in South Carolina, the Topper site in South Carolina, right? The South Carolina University has been excavating this site for over 20 years now. they have the oldest human evidence, the oldest remnants of human activity in North America is in South Carolina, and it dates back to 51,000 years ago. And so, when my first question to anybody that wants to talk to about this topic in any way, shape, or form, and let's stick to the facts, what was happening on this planet 51,000 years ago? And what was happening was that there was a migration out of Central Africa across the world. The humans landed in Europe, across the Asias, even as far as the Australias, down south into southern Africa, and east into East Africa. Well, obviously, if we have evidence of human activity in the Americas 51,000 years ago, they also landed here in the Americas. And there was only one group of people that was here at those times. And so my question would be for anybody initially is that if we have evidence of humans existing in the Americas 51,000 years ago, what are those people? Those would be the indigenous peoples of the Americas. And so let's talk about a history, and let's talk about that people and those peoples that initially touched here in America, what they became, what they were doing, what was happening in the Americas throughout the history of those peoples, and what happened to them. Who are they today, and where did they go? And
your thoughts,
so
your answer. Who are they?
So eventually they became known as the Southern Cult, or more. A lot of people would know the Mississippian, or maybe a lot of people have heard of the Mississippian mound builders, and in those communities. But for layman's terms, because those communities have been under-identified, we're going to just go with a general term of the Southern culture. And the Southern culture is a group of people that existed on the eastern and the southeastern portions of what is now called the United States or North America. And they had a culture that were building pyramidal mound structures that some of them predate the Great Pyramids of Egypt. These communities would move up and down the Americas depending on the particular era that you're talking about. You mentioned, let's jump all the way to 13,000 years ago when this last ice age, right? And what was happening here during that time? Well, as the ice receded, the peoples started moving back north again. And there's evidence of that migration south during the coming of the Ice Age. And then when the Ice Age started to regress, the people started moving back up north from the south. And so it would be from the equator area, so Mexico, a lot of the islands weren't islands during that time because the waters were, the oceans were a lot lower. And so there's huge amounts of evidence in the Gulf of Mexico, off the panhandles of Florida, that would highlight and showcase a civilization that was thriving there. And they even still have evidence that would showcase that if you look at the shell mounds off of the Yucatan and off of the panhandle of Florida and South Carolina, you'll see artifacts and you'll see complexes where these peoples were living. And so those peoples would have moved back up north during the time that at the same time as the Asians were crossing the Bering Strait and moving down into the plains area of the Americas, which would be west of the Mississippi. However, I'm talking to you about a history of a people that were east of the Mississippi, and they don't talk about that history that much.
And you're talking about the Mississippian mound builders.
Yeah, so that's one of the names that was given to that collective group of people. But so we're talking about the people that would have been living in the southeastern portions of the United States. And so that would be North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Alabama, some parts of Ohio, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, those areas.
And
now,
your mom, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You gave me the road last time.
All right. Now, and so 13,500 years ago, when we had the Bering Strait migration into the plains, we also had a group of people already living in the Americas doing stuff like this. That was on the East Coast. On the east of the Mississippi River. And these peoples here that were doing these things is where the huge conversation is about, and the arguments and the discussions about identity and classification, and what they were called, what we should be called now. And that's the history that my mom's not sharing. That's where I want to get into today. This is the reality of this. Yeah, so this is the reality of the situation. You know, when we talk about a group of people that were migrating 50,000 years ago, it was only one group of people, and they were only one color. And as people settled into their prospective environments, we as humans evolve to fit that environment. And so individuals, communities that moved into higher elevation, their nose got thinner because they didn't need as much. You know, those individuals that moved into environments that were less humid, and not as heated, lost their melanin because they didn't need it. Those communities that stayed closer to environments where they needed their melanin, closer to the equators, and not as high into the mountain areas, kept those features. And here in the Americas, those features stayed throughout the time after that first migration. And so when people talk about Blacks being here, so, you know, Africans being here, and they reference the Olmecs, the Olmecs were not the first to inhabit the Americas, and they were not the first melanated community to inhabit the Americas. The issue and the problem is that older civilization and that older cultures, artifacts, history, everything of that community was wiped out and erased. But we do have evidence of that erasure. And we do have, now I'm not talking about this stuff, I'm talking about stuff that's older than this, right? And that's the problem. I'm talking about stuff that's older than this, that's from Baltimore, that's from North Carolina, that's from South Carolina, that's from Virginia and Pennsylvania, that's from Florida, that's from Alabama and Mississippi. And that stuff looks like me and you. And you don't even know to look for that stuff. But it's in
actually, I was thinking back last night to a trip I took to Canada as a young kid. It was about 13. And on that trip, I saw Black Indians, the souvenirs in the stores along the way. And what blew my mind was how Black they were. That's what blew my mind. They were not the Indians you see on television.
Yeah, for sure. And my question to educators, to Pan-Africanists is, well, how long does a people have to be on a land before they considered indigenous to that land? We all know that Africans populated the earth, but when Africans reached Europe, how long did they have to stay in Europe before they were European? The same with
the answer is,
you tell me, because I'm not allowed to be a Native American.
So truth be told, it's political because
It's
by
all
definition, it says refers to the original inhabitants of a place.
of a land.
When you
Right.
say original,
The first.
yeah,
It's simple. And if
it is
as
really simple.
and if a Pan-Africanist, and I ain't never heard a Pan-Africanist that didn't say that Black people was the first to reach Americas, well then why can't I be indigenous to America? Why I got to be African? And I'm gonna tell you what difference it makes to me. The difference for me is the loss of my rights and the loss of my rights and the loss of my identity. If I consider myself an African first, then I lose my rights as an indigenous person. And so and I'm okay with you acknowledging and identifying yourself as an African by all means, and everything that comes with that. Stand strong and be great in that, and let's work together because we got a community to heal. But for me, as an indigenous individual, if I call myself African simply because my skin is brown, I lose my rights. And along with those rights, I also lose all of my ancestral and traditional ways that came with those ancestors. Simply because I'm brown, I have to be African. And this is the thing, right? If everybody is from Africa, then why can't white people be African? Why can't Asian people be African? Why y'all not calling Asians African? Y'all calling me African because of my skin tone, discounting my ancestry, and that's not cool. And then again, the reality of it is only 5% of the slaves in the United States came from Africa. And so who were the rest of those slaves? And if we're the descendants of those slaves, why are we negating 95% of the story of that slavery? And because our colonists allows the dominant theory of the African to be to educate us, to motivate us, to emotionally inspire us to do so much. However, what it doesn't allow us to do is to reinstill and reestablish our governing systems on the homeland of our ancestors. Because if you African,
I just want to clarify. I think you called me. You said you're okay with me claiming my Africanness.
I'm gonna claim with not use particularly anyone.
Okay.
Anyone.
Well,
anyone.
I know that I have some indigenous. No one has ever proven to me that slavery was in our family. But I'm coming at this from a street level. And I get it. I can go and sign up and get my Blackfoot card.
To be indigenous is not that.
Now North Avenue, when we coming up Broad Street in Philly and the police pull you over.
They treat me like a black person.
They treat us all the same.
For sure. Right.
And so as we are realizing who we are, I just hope that we are careful not to ostracize ourselves from people who have been at our side for the past 200, 300, 400 years, where we weren't checking their tribal card or what slave plantation they came from. And that's where I'm kind of lost. Okay, so yeah, all right. So say I went and got it. Now I got my card. Here's my card. I'm official.
Not gonna happen. First of all, the system is set up. Black people ain't gonna be recognized as Indians.
Well, because some have chosen to be recognized as Moors. And I've heard great things from Moors when it comes to dealing with this country. One thing I've learned recently, and this is from a man who did 31 years in prison, he said he doesn't have a driver's license. He uses a passport. Some type of internationally recognized driver's license. So
Um,
if we can bring anything here, let's bring some enlightenment to us that we have options.
we have plenty of options as a community, and those options will dictate, what our community becomes in the future. And there is no set solution, and that's why we are totally comfortable with working with any community if it's about particularly if it's about offering the next generation a better opportunity or
And
healing our Mother Earth.
let me also thank you and your mom for doing shows with me for the past several years. I don't know how long it's been, maybe almost 10 years or so now. But I know as I met you, I was coming into the knowledge of what happened with Black Wall Street, ended up writing a book about it, how those Black people got there. I learned that the Blacks on the Trail of Tears were not slaves. The ones I've read about were soldiers who fought against the settlers, the cavalry, Andrew Jackson. I have since learned that Florida was a much bigger territory than it is today. They called it La Florida. The U.S. did not own Florida until 1831. So in that time, if you happen to have been enslaved and you escaped and got to Florida, as long as you were willing to fight for the Spanish crown and convert to Catholicism, then you could be you get your freedom. I wanted, and while we're on that, I wanted you to get to something that is on the agenda, and that's the interrelationship of indigenous peoples and Christianity. Y'all hold on. We ain't knocking nobody's religion. Everybody believe in God. We just talking about some history that happened and how the indigenous peoples were treated by the Spanish. There were some, there were those Spanish who were civil, who were humane. But then there were others that looked at indigenous peoples as less than. It fell into the whole, what do they call that thing?
Human rights?
No, little fancy term where white people have the right to go and colonize and take over the world because they find themselves to be superior. It'll come to me. A general term used to justify the rape, the murder, the killing, the poisoning of who they feel are a lesser people. You notice when they go to kill any leader, the first thing they do is demonize that leader. But anything on what happened when Friar Tuck come over here with the Bible talking about Jesus?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of history that people don't forget. They do not acknowledge. They don't
manifest destiny. Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Good evening, Mr. Rizzo. Manifest destiny. That's it. Manifest destiny. Listen, we're going to tame the indigenous peoples. We're going to show them Jesus. But they were just they were just the spies. Kind of like the white addicts that we see popping up in the Black community. That's like the first wave. They doing intel. They doing surveillance.
It's called the encamiendo.
Huh?
Repartimento. So the repartimento system was the system that the Spanish used to enslave the indigenous population. And it basically turned into our police force today. And so that's a whole nother topic we could talk about another time. With that said, Florida was, La Florida actually, again, was the whole United States all the way up to Canada at one time. And the Spanish was all about missionizing the Americas. And that was their goal. If you weren't a Christian, then you were a savage. And, they had they had the so-called first international human rights debates about the very first international discussion on human rights was about the Native American here, the Negro Indian, as they called us, and the issue of us having very, very high civilization, but we weren't Christianized. And the argument was whether they should let us be, because some of our sciences and some of our ways excelled theirs, and they acknowledged that. So if you're interested in that little bit of history, it's called the Great Debate. But with that being said, as a part
the
of
debate again is treat the indigenous peoples as human beings, or treat them as slaves.
Or treat them as slaves.
Columbus was certainly on the treat them as slaves part, if that was the great debate. And it's so interesting that the Spanish did this, because we got to remember that just before Christopher Columbus goes and gets money from Spain and Portugal to come this way, following Pedro Nino Alonso, obviously they had been coming here. They let him tag along. Right after that, just before that, the Moors had dominated the Iberian Peninsula for 800 years. So it's interesting how somebody who just got their freedom, the first thing they do is enslave somebody else.
We find that going on right now in this world, isn't it? People justify doing horrific things to people because they said it happened to them. And I don't get it. I don't get that part. But, so the Spanish actually was, the Spanish had interactions all the way up as far as the Powhatans, which is, nobody ever asked the question, how did the chief of the Powhatans know English to be able to speak to John Smith? Anybody ever asked that question? Like, wait a second, how did they know how to speak English? How could they talk to John Smith? They were literally speaking in English. They'd say that their chief knew English. And that was because the chief had been kidnapped and enslaved and was actually in Spain for 10 years. And when he came back here as a part of one of those missions, I think the boat was actually called the St. Augustine, if I'm not mistaken, which is another thing to talk about. But what he did was, when he got to southern Florida near the Panhandle, when he came back from Europe, he killed the friars that he was with, and then he went back home. And so 15 years later, when the British started interacting with the indigenous peoples here, one of the first people they started interacting with was the Powhatan Confederacy, and their chief was okay and comfortable with working with the British because he had an issue with the Spanish, because the Spanish had enslaved him for 10 years. Although he knew that the British and the Spanish were at war. And so that was one of the ways that the British was able to solidify themselves in the Northeast, because of the warring and the continuous warring that was happening with the Spanish and the Southern clans. The British never really fought any wars south with any of the Native American communities. And that's one of the reasons why you're not really going to get that in American history. A lot of that fighting was between the Spanish. And by the time the British and the colonies started establishing themselves, they had already declared that any Native American that was still on the lands was now considered a citizen and had lost their status, so they were a Negro. And recognizing that, again, tribes like the Stono Rebellion was not a slave rebellion; it was an Indian rebellion of dark-skinned Indians. When you start looking and start really researching the history of early 1700s and the 1600s and the 1500s, there's no doubt that, okay, so now what do we do, recognizing that our history has been not replaced, but our history has been shifted, and a dominant theory of our history is not as dominant as we are being told it is. I hope I'm not over talking.
No, please go on. It is my job to shut up. Some great comments in the comments section. As you were talking, what came to mind, the what I learned to be a mischaracterized piece was the Seminole Wars. When tribes of Israel, the Seminole Wars. So let me just share. You had mentioned the Stono Rebellion. I don't know if you have your notes with you. There we go.
Okay, yeah.
The
largest slave insurrection in British North America. Again, the Stono were a Native American tribe. So that's a misnomer there. They weren't. It was the slave. So the slave insurrection would suggest that they were African in descent. But if you change that to the Stono Indian Rebellion, the largest slave insurrection, now you're like, hold on, wait a second. That means that the Indians were slaves, right? And wait a second, even further, near September 1739, how many Africans actually were transported here into the Americas? It wasn't even 40,000 by
that's
17.
That's what Brother Abner is suggesting. They didn't say Africans for sale. The sign said Negro for sale.
And that's a thing that was changed.
So for people who are missing it, you're saying when America says a slave insurrection, it was actually an indigenous war.
This particular one, yes. This particular one.
Well, I know the Second Seminole War involved Black people. I know that from research. Chief John Lewis.
Well, so again, the Seminole name didn't come up until after 1715, after the War of 1715. The War of 1715 was a Confederation war. All of the tribes in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, parts of Alabama, parts of Tennessee, they all was like, look, we over this. And so they all joined the Confederacy. And that's where the first time that you hear the name Yamasee come up as this and it's a confederation of Native Americans that said, we going to war against these people. And so they go to war, and it's a war that happens from like 1711 to 1715. But they lose the war. And so after 1715, a group of people start traveling south. Why? Because you can be free in the South. You can't be free up here in the North. And so they know they can't be free here, but if they go south, they can be free. When they moved south, that's when you first start hearing the name Seminole, which some people state means lost soul, or I don't remember the other translations, or lost tribe, meaning they had lost.
Cimarrones is what, Spanish word or French word, but it's Cimarrones, and it means wild ones.
Okay, so that's not the story. That's the wild ones is not the reflection of the inception of this community of people. This and the inception of the Seminole as a collective group of people came out of the 1715 war, when a group of them went south, and they, from what I've been told, they were lost souls. They were because they had to be moved off of their lands. They settled in with the indigenous communities that was already there and kept the name Seminole. And so if you go into the history books, if you go into any of the Spanish logs and stuff like that in the 1600s and the 1500s, you're not going to find either one of those names, not Seminole or Yamasee. Those were names that were created during those times as a part of communities having to fight wars and then reorganize themselves, and then fight wars and then move off lands, and then fight wars and then so it was a lot of that happening in the South during the 16 and 1700s. And so, notwithstanding and recognizing that all of these communities were indigenous communities that are being named by storytellers, and the storytellers are the people that won. And so we gotta also recognize that we have to dive deeper into any of this stuff to feel confident with being able to share it.
I would be remiss, because it's come up a couple of times already in the comments about us being the lost tribe of Israel. Might you have any thoughts on that?
I'm not a theologian, you know what I mean? I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. I ain't never read the Bible, and it doesn't matter. So it doesn't. So to me, it's not something that I'm interested in. Be honest with you.
Are you interested in the liberation of Black people across America?
If they want it, if they want it, sure.
Are you checking for tribal cards?
Your genealogy, your history. Who are you? You know, again, if we are to do this, we gotta restart this. You know, we're accepting our colonial ways as the standard for how we're gonna advance moving forward. We might as well just stick with what we got.
Right now, the Trump administration has pushed Texas to get rid of 5 congressional districts. Is that important to you?
It's very important to me, yes.
So you do care about the status of Black people across America?
Yeah, very much so.
Oh,
it involves
okay.
me.
Well, that's what. Yeah.
Listen, everybody should, if they know what's right. I don't care.
When they pull us over, if we hook up, your city and my city, and we get pulled over, they not checking for what tribe we from. They treating us all the same.
Hey, listen, if you know, like I know,
and they're good at it.
They'll, you know, depending on which tribe you from, they try to deport you because you might look Mexican. You know what I mean? That's not cool. I'm just speaking the reality of the situation. We know that it's some Native Americans that, you know, have been being held by ICE because of the way that they look.
So
you know what I mean, I ain't even talking about Black people right now.
We had an event and ICE roll up on us. They all masked up. They're trying to impeach Trump. I saw that today. That was some good news. Keep planting that seed, impeach him. And then this is the thing, because the guy asked me when we're gonna bring Mike Lane back. Mike Lane is welcome to come on the show as long as you come with respect. And that's where Travis, you and your moms helped us to get back on the even keel. I don't come on here to be any type of tough guy. We're talking about our history, our legacy, and that's a very important job. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So as long as you come with respect, we can be civil. You want to get ugly, then we got to go outside. But we're not going to do that on air. Not me. I'm not going to be a part of that. I want to be a part of solutions, enlightening, and these conversations have been very enlightening. And I think the more civil we are, the more we can find what we have in common. But dude was coming on like, I'm not with them. I ain't mess with them. I'm like, hold up, dude. Then I brought Mukasa on. And Mukasa is a civil rights fighter, walked with Dr. King, literally fought for Dr. King, literally has fought for Black people all over the world. I wanted to hear his thoughts on Marcus Garvey because Mike said that Marcus Garvey was a scammer. Marcus Garvey organized the largest organization of Black people in the world. And I said, well, who said he's a scammer? He said the American government. I say, well, isn't that the same? Aren't they the same people that you are peeved with? And now you siding with them? Pick a side. Pick a team. Because where I live at, we don't really get to choose. We already know what time it is. And ain't nobody checking your card for your tribe at the door. You down or you not. That's it. And I've always loved Africa and loved any and everything I can learn about it. Loved it when I went there. Loved it when I saw it. Enjoyed it. But I love this country too and want to do some traveling down in South America. And we all need to do some traveling. So again, this is about being civil. But they came on and they were saying this. The dude did a poll. He did a poll. If you're with Trump, push 1. If you're not with Trump, push 0. And then all of these Trumpsters start coming on. A few days later, Texas wipes out 5 congressional districts. And I'm like wondering, what in the hell did I just see? Did I miss something?
I missed it. But I will say that,
Okay.
that we...
Damn right he did.
I missed that part. I don't
blew my mind. I'm like, it's one thing getting banked. It's one thing getting ambushed.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing getting banked. But you sided up with Trump on me. Boy, better take a trip to the dispensary.
No, everybody got their choice.
No agenda. We just trying to be upbeat, and I can work with anybody. Treat me right. I give me love. I give you respect. I give it right back. Choctaw Indian, San Angelo, Texas. Great grandma was at least that's what we grandchildren called her. Ashe. Okay, here's something else. Let's get to this. Bill Cosby. Yes, I said Bill Cosby. We all laughed at Bill Cosby growing up. Bill Cosby said, I don't know the key to success, but I know the key to failure is to try to please everybody. Is there a term that we can all agree on? We can't agree on it. We cannot agree on what the hell we call ourselves.
I'll tell you what. Now, I will talk about indigenous, black Indians, Native Americans, autochthonous. I'll talk about that stuff. I'm talking to those groups of people. I'm not talking to the Pan-Africanists and the other groups. I'm talking to that group of people. This Indian population, this Native population. You can call yourself whatever you want to, but in law, you're gonna be one of two things, and that's what we have to understand. Yeah, we understand you can call yourself whatever you want to, but what does that mean in law, and what does that offer me the opportunity to do, or what does it stop me from doing? What rights does it take away from me? And so you hear me call myself indigenous. Why do I call myself indigenous?
Ooh,
well, first,
I spoke her. Yes, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. What were you about to say?
No. I'm reading comments and listening at the same time. I mispronounced his I think grandma's name. Oos was her name. Okay, come on with it. I'm shutting up. You got the screen, man, because you got a few minutes. And I don't want you to say I can do my part. You said we want to talk about American history. I think I should fall back.
Now, we're talking about American history, definitely. And I definitely appreciate you. But again, for me, it's indigenous. And why is it indigenous? Because number one, I'm not a definition. You can't define me. And most terms that people use as identifying terminology is defined. Indigenous isn't defined, it's described. And I like the description of that term. And so I also fit in line with the description with respects to my genealogy. And so that's the term that I'll choose to use. And in law, it's going to be one or the other. And so one term offers you the opportunity to be what they call autonomous. Everything else, you are subject. You're a subject of something. And so at the end of the day, and again, that goes also for my my dual heritage community that have African and Native American inside of them.
That's another question I got.
What's
Okay,
that?
okay. Here's my question. It's really a question for Mike. Okay, he's Creek. He's Creek. His mama Creek. His mama's Creek. His daddy's Creek. I get it. Did anybody in that data African American?
Well, I'm sure that they probably, so the Creek, depending on which community.
You know what I'm saying? How in the hell are you gonna go back and find out who everybody laid with? Because they weren't checking cards. I can tell you, they weren't checking tribal cards. I'm only gonna have sex with you if you got a card. Did it go down like that? I don't ever in the history of blackness remember nobody saying, let me see where you're from.
So there are various communities.
Did you date outside the tribe?
A lot of communities did not date outside the tribe. Because they wanted to keep the tribe. And so they would date double cousins, and a lot of that was happening.
Somebody creeped.
Yeah, but of course.
I'm convinced. So there's some intermingling in there.
Well, and no, there is no such thing as a pure blood Indian here in Americas anymore. And everybody can acknowledge that. You know, even the BIA Indians will acknowledge that, you know, it's not that. However, you know, what you choose to do, how you choose to live your life, you know, how you choose to honor your ancestors and how you walk on this earth is what determines, you know, how you identify yourself and how you will develop and build moving forward. And so, you know, no matter who you marry, you know what I mean, no matter, you know what I mean, what you connect with, what is your, you know, goal, and what are you trying to offer to the community come moving forward. And that's the indigenous way, no matter where you are, you know, 7 generations forward. You have to, you know, and if you're not thinking about that, then you're basically allowing colonialism to seep in, because no indigenous community is thinking only about yourself, or this is about me. And so that's something too.
On a job application, do you ever check off white?
No. Why would I do that? I'm proud. Again, Black pride, indigenous ancestry.
I was just trying to see if the application would go up the ladder faster. And I only mentioned it, Stella mentions lots of mingling, lots of labels. And you're right. We don't know what in the hell is in our blood.
Mm-hmm.
But some people do know. I've met people in Africa because I figured we're the only people, initially, we're the only people we can't go back more than 3 or 4 or 5 generations. It's all over the world. It don't matter where you're from, China, Saudi Arabia, wherever. You have people who can go back in their lineage and people who can't. At the end of the day, I just want to know what kind of person you are. Mm-hmm. Are you a person that stands up for right or not? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, and there's room for everybody. You know what I mean? It's not when as an indigenous, as an indigenous principle of oneness and connectiveness, we are all interconnected. And so, you know, I see and I acknowledge you and who you are and what you are doing. If it doesn't resonate with me, then I'll remove myself from this space. And it's just as simple as that. There's no need for
I hope
me.
You wouldn't do that. We've
definitely not here. We're here.
Oh yeah, I feel like family. You and your moms have always treated me like family, and what I've learned is that they're not
Baltimore, many. Right? You know, we got family. You know, part of our ancestry comes from Baltimore, right? The Mormons. The Mormons.
On your dad's side, you said?
No, on my mom's side.
On your mom's side. Mm-hmm. And then you think about back when families were together, enslaved families were split up. A mother's watching her 10-year-old child be taken out of her life.
Crazy. It's happening today too in our country.
So there's a lot of evil to address here today.
And
Jeffrey
just like
Epstein, the people that voted for Trump knew all about Jeffrey Epstein, but now release the files. Come on, that common sense told you he was a weirdo. But you voted for him. He told you he was grabbing a vagina. You voted for him. And a lot of Latinos voted for him. The black lady put up a video after the election. She said, don't nobody ask black people, melanated people, don't ask melanated people for nothing. Don't ask us to support LGBTQXZ, Latino, the
millennial, whatever y'all call it, whatever.
Don't ask us to support nothing. And then they showed a video of the Latino lady. We vote for Donald Trump. And then I can't believe Donald Trump deported my, yeah.
Okay. I know you have a senator that's about to come on next, right?
Yeah, let me give you the floor, man. What is the website? Let's get it up because
indedu.org. Indigenous education. We have so much free stuff on YouTube for you to go check out. And again, this is a conversation. You know, I noticed some people like, he don't have no facts. This is a conversation to offer you some insight, some opportunities to consider some things. It's really on you to go and research these things. But if you're interested in research, information, reference information, all of that kind of stuff, we are an educational institution. You can go on our YouTube page, Indigenous Education, and we will reference a lot of information in the books that we are grabbing this stuff from. On our website, we have a courses page where we offer workshops for low cost. Again, we are nonprofit, so we do need funding. And so if you're interested in those workshops, plenty of researches, references. We have lesson plans there for individuals that do homeschooling that might be interested in certain aspects of history curriculum. We have, it'll come with worksheets and homework lessons and other books to read. And so this is real, just not our words. We are very honored and humbled to be able to organize this stuff and be able to share Mom's work in a way to offer y'all some balanced perspective without the emotion, just straight facts of the situation. And then we can explore what that means to each one of us in conversations like this. I definitely appreciate Don for allowing us to continue to share this information on our platform. I'd like to acknowledge my mother, Redtail Hawk, also known as Renee Sanders, the co-founder of Indigenous Education. Again, if you're interested, indedu.org. We're running a youth program right now, the last 2 weeks, so we're really excited about that. You can stay tuned and learn more about how you can support that. And we're about to put together a fundraiser, be the first fundraiser that we host as a nonprofit. It's going to be a gala style event. And so if you're interested in supporting us, coming out and meeting me and moms and participating in supporting the organization as we try to get a building, check our website out. We're going to have some more information for y'all in the next couple of weeks on that one. Thank you. Thank you very much, Don.
Thank you, big brother. And then Mr. Rizzo, I ain't messing with you. I'm still going to be nice to you, but I ain't with your boy. Not today, not tomorrow. If I see him in Baltimore, I'm going to push him straight in the harbor. But you good, Mr. Rizzo, but you can't wear no Trump T-shirts in Sandtown. That won't work. All right. Much love.
Yeah. We had Indians that was fighting on the Confederate side too. What you gonna say?
Good evening, world.
Have a great day, everybody.
Redtail.